Imagine I offer you $100 right now, today, like literal cash in your hand.
Okay, I'll take it.
Right, but what if I tell you that you can wait exactly 1 year
Yeah.
and I'll give you a higher amount?
Oh, the classic delayed gratification test.
Exactly. So the question is, how much would that future amount actually have to be to convince you to wait?
Yeah, that's a really revealing question.
Researchers actually asked this exact question to a massive group of 70-year-olds.
Yeah.
And the answer they got, like the actual mathematical number required to delay that gratification, it explains with terrifying accuracy why most people will just never, ever be wealthy.
Yeah, it completely exposes the psychology behind the money.
It really does. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to, really decode the actual hidden mechanics of accumulating, maintaining, and scaling wealth.
And we're not just talking about the flashy illusion of what rich looks like.
No, absolutely not. We're moving way past that. We're digging into the psychological blueprints, the behavioral economics, and the highly calculated social strategies that actually separate true financial independence from the rest of the pack.
And we have an incredible stack of sources to pull from today to do this. I mean, we're looking at sweeping economic research from Harvard, behavioral studies from the National Bureau of Economic Research.
NBER.
Yeah, the NBER, plus massive psychological profiles from the Open University.
That one is super fascinating.
It is. We're also diving into the clinical insights of financial psychologists, specifically Dr. Brad Klontz, and we'll explore the sociology of ultra-wealthy networks, too.
And we also have hard, empirical institutional data from McKinsey, right?
Exactly. Looking at how the wealth management industry actually categorizes and prices the rich, it's a completely comprehensive look at the entire ecosystem of wealth.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, if you're listening to this, you probably grew up with a very specific, culturally ingrained image of what it actually means to be wealthy.
Oh, for sure. Hollywood does a great job with that.
Right. You picture the sprawling mansions, the fleet of brand new exotic cars, the private jets, just this effortless luck of the draw.
Yeah, the champagne lifestyle.
Exactly. We are just so conditioned to think wealth is essentially a lottery ticket. Like either you're born into the right family, or you hit it big on some crypto gamble, or you just maintain this wildly flashy lifestyle that somehow magically sustains itself.
But the data shows the reality is completely counterintuitive to all of that.
Completely. The numbers in a bank account are just a trailing indicator. The leading indicators are all behavioral.
And that is the most dangerous myth we really have to dismantle right out of the gate here. People look at the money as the cause of the lifestyle,
Right.
rather than seeing it as the effect of the psychology. To understand how to get rich, and more importantly, how to stay rich for decades, you can't just look at what wealthy people do with their checkbooks.
You have to look at what's going on in their heads.
Exactly. You first have to examine how their brains are actually wired. You have to look at the foundational blueprint of their personalities.
Because the data literally shows that wealth accumulation is fundamentally a psychological output.
It is.
So let's start right there, inside the brain. There's this massive German psychological study that the sources highlighted, and it compared over 1,100 self-made millionaires.
And they define that as individuals with a net worth over $1.08 million, right?
Yes, exactly. So they compared these self-made millionaires to both inheritors of wealth and just the general public.
And what's cool is they didn't just ask them for stock tips or whatever.
Right. They put them through rigorous, standardized personality testing using the Big Five psychological model.
Which, for anyone who doesn't know, the Big Five is basically the gold standard in personality psychology right now.
Yeah, it measures where you fall on the spectrum of conscientiousness, neuroticism, which I guess we can frame in the positive as emotional stability.
Right. Much better way to say it. And it also looks at agreeableness, extroversion, and openness to experience.
Okay, so when the researchers actually ran the data on these self-made millionaires, what did they find?
Well, a highly distinct, just undeniable rich personality profile emerged. Like, it was statistically significant.
Wow.
Yeah. They score exceptionally high in conscientiousness, for starters.
Okay, but what does that actually mean in this context? Because I feel like everyone is trying to be conscientious, No one wakes up and says, I'm going to be completely disorganized and just give up on my goals today.
Right, totally. But in this case, it doesn't just mean they keep a tidy desk or remember birthdays.
Okay.
It means they are highly determined, fiercely organized, punctual, and obsessively goal-oriented. They do what they say they are going to do over and over again for years.
It's the consistency.
Yeah.
But what struck me in the sources is that it's not just conscientiousness in a vacuum, it's how it pairs with the other traits.
Precisely. It pairs heavily with extreme emotional stability.
Meaning they don't freak out when things go wrong.
Exactly. They are highly resilient. When the market crashes or a business deal falls through, they don't panic or spiral into anxiety. They maintain their baseline.
That makes sense.
And then you add to that high levels of openness to new experiences, meaning they are curious and adaptable, strong extroversion, and a significantly higher tolerance for calculated risk.
And I think the really telling part of that study is the stark contrast between the self-mades and the inheritors.
Oh, yeah. The trust fund kids.
Right. The people who built the wealth from absolute zero embody this specific personality profile much, much more strongly than those who just had the money handed to them.
Which really implies that you literally need this specific psychological armor to forge wealth from scratch.
The researchers essentially concluded that you don't become conscientious and emotionally stable because you got rich.
Right, you got rich because you were conscientious, stable, and willing to take the risk in the first place.
It acts as this behavioral engine.
Yeah, and we can really layer onto that the work of the financial psychologist we mentioned, Dr. Brad Klontz.
Oh, his stuff is so good.
It is. He focuses heavily on this concept of the internal locus of control.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener, because I honestly think that concept is the absolute linchpin of financial psychology.
It really is the core of it all.
So an internal locus of control basically means you possess this deep-seated belief that your actions directly dictate your outcomes.
Right, you own your results.
Yeah. If you fail, it is your fault. If you succeed, it is your fault. You aren't blaming like macroeconomic policy or your boss or bad luck or the alignment of the stars.
Exactly. It's a lens of total agency. And Dr. Klontz makes this crucial paradigm-shifting distinction between being broke and being poor.
Oh yeah, this is a massive distinction.
It changes everything. Being broke is merely a temporary financial state. I mean, you might literally have $0 in your checking account today.
Which happens to a lot of entrepreneurs.
Constantly. But if you have an internal locus of control and that rich personality profile, you view being broke as just a puzzle to solve.
It's like a temporary mechanical failure in your life.
Exactly. Being poor, on the other hand, is a restrictive, chronic mindset.
Right. It's an external locus of control.
Yes. It is the core belief that the system is completely rigged against you, that you have absolutely no agency, and that wealth is something that just happens to other people.
Not something you can organically generate through your own friction with the world.
Exactly. And Dr. Klontz points out that when someone has a poor mindset, even if they are handed a massive windfall like winning the lottery or receiving a huge inheritance, they will almost always sabotage it.
They lose the money.
They almost always lose the money because their underlying belief system hasn't changed. They still view themselves as a victim of circumstance, so they subconsciously return to their baseline.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this on behalf of the listener.
Go for it.
Because if I'm listening to this right now and I'm thinking, look, I am naturally introverted, I struggle with anxiety, so I'm definitely not a rock of emotional stability, and I absolutely hate taking financial risks.
Right, you're missing a lot of the big 5 traits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So am I just doomed? Like, is this personality profile a fixed genetic thermostat that you are just born with? Or is it a muscle that you can actively train and change?
That is the pivotal question, honestly. And the data addresses it beautifully.
Thank goodness.
Right. While your baseline personality traits might be somewhat stable, your attitudes and your conscious behaviors regarding money are absolutely malleable.
So you can build the muscle.
You can absolutely build the muscle. And this is exactly what that Open University study proved.
The one with 90,000 adults in the UK.
Yes, massive sample size. They looked specifically at their attitudes toward money and their actual financial capabilities.
And what did they find?
They proved that how you consciously choose to frame money in your mind is a massive predictor of your future wealth, completely regardless of your baseline personality.
Okay, so the study categorized people's views on money into 4 distinct buckets, right?
Yeah, 4 core attitudes.
People basically view money as freedom, money as love, money as power. or money as security.
And the resulting data is just staggering. The individuals who consciously trained themselves to view money primarily as a tool for security accumulated significantly more actual financial wealth.
Meaning liquid savings and investment portfolios.
Exactly. Way more than those who viewed it as a means to gain freedom, exert power, or demonstrate love.
That makes intuitive sense when you break it down. I mean, when you view money as power, you spend it to show off, right?
To flex on people.
Yeah. And when you view it as love, you buy things to win affection from your kids or your spouse.
But when you view money as security, you treat it like a protective barrier between you and the unpredictable, chaotic nature of the world.
You don't spend it frivolously.
No, because every single dollar you spend is literally a brick removed from your defensive wall.
But, there is a massive paradox buried in that open university data that I just couldn't stop thinking about.
Your property wealth thing.
Yes. You would logically assume that the people who are the absolute best at saving and investing, the money equals security crowd, who have the highest net worths, would also have the biggest houses and the most expensive physical assets.
It seems like common sense. They have the most money, so they should own the most stuff.
Right. But the data shows the exact opposite.
Yeah, that is the paradox of security. And the mechanism behind that outcome is super fascinating.
Let's get into it.
Because these individuals prioritize deep financial security above all else, they become highly averse to debt. And they become highly averse to flashy, depreciating spending.
So taking on a massive jumbo mortgage for a sprawling mansion actually feels like a massive risk to them.
Exactly. It physically threatens their sense of security to owe a bank that much money. Dropping $50,000 on a luxury watch feels like exposing a vulnerability.
So prioritizing security leads to massive liquid savings and robust compounding investment portfolios. But it actually results in much lower property wealth.
And far fewer luxury items. They are incredibly cash-rich and asset-solid, but they do absolutely nothing to look the part.
It completely shatters the Hollywood illusion.
Totally. I mean, we are socially trained to look for the signifiers of wealth.
Yeah, the zip codes, the logos, the exotic cars.
But the psychological data tells us that the people holding the actual capital are actively, intentionally avoiding those very signifiers.
Because those items conflict with their core psychological need for safety.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the people with the actual money are avoiding the mansions and the watches, how do they actually live day to day?
It's a lot more boring than you'd think.
Because that psychological reality completely rewrites the script. It brings to mind the classic earn and consume treadmill concept.
Oh, absolutely. We have to completely separate the concept of high income from the concept of high net worth. They are not the same thing at all.
Not at all. Let's dig into the reality check of how these people operate, using the baseline findings from The Millionaire Next Door.
Great source for this.
First, let's establish what we are actually talking about here. When we say millionaire, we're talking about a household with a net worth of $1 million or more.
Right. Total assets minus total liabilities.
And what always shocks people is how rare that actually is. Only about 3.5% of U.S. households actually hit this mark.
And even within that highly exclusive 3.5%, it is not all tech billionaires landing helicopters on super yachts.
Not even close.
Fully 95% of those millionaire households sit right between $1 million and $10 million.
So they are accessible, grounded levels of wealth. They are literally the millionaires living next door to you.
Hence the title of the book.
Right. And I think about the earn and consume treadmill, like a personal finance version of a terrible corporate strategy.
How do you mean?
Like most high earners run their personal lives like a flashy tech startup, trying to show massive top-line revenue.
Oh, right. The flashy cars, the expensive vacations.
Yeah, but they're operating at a horrific net loss every single month. They make $100,000, so they buy a car that costs $50,000.
And then they get a promotion to $200,000.
And they instantly upgrade to a massive house that stretches their mortgage capacity to the absolute breaking point.
They are constantly spending tomorrow's unearned money to project an image of wealth today.
Yes. The treadmill keeps speeding up, and they have to work harder and harder just to service the debt of their own lifestyle. That image they are projecting is actually an anchor that guarantees they will never accumulate true wealth.
while the true millionaire runs their life much more like a boring legacy utility company.
I love that analogy.
Right. The top-line revenue might not look sexy to the public, but the profit margins and retained earnings are absolutely bulletproof.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, the reality of the millionaire next door is defined by extreme calculated frugality. They budget meticulously. They know exactly how much they spend on groceries, on utilities, on insurance.
They track everything.
Everything. And importantly, the data points out that their spouses are very often even more frugal than they are.
Oh, that's a huge point.
You mathematically cannot build a multi-million-dollar net worth if you are married to someone whose primary emotional outlet is luxury consumption.
It just drains the accounts faster than you can fill them.
Yep.
And the automotive statistics from the sources blew my mind on this front.
The car data is hilarious.
It really is. When you consider the cultural stereotypes of rich people in sports cars, the actual data is just, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Over a quarter of these wealthy individuals haven't bought a car in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And less than a quarter of them buy brand new cars at all.
Because they understand the math of depreciation.
The vast majority are buying secondhand or, at most, leasing standard, ultra-reliable vehicles.
Yeah, buying a brand new car is essentially setting capital on fire the moment you drive it off the lot.
It really is.
They are actively choosing not to tie up their capital velocity in an asset that loses a huge chunk of its value in the first 12 months.
It's all about deploying capital. The data shows a millionaire is more likely to buy a $40 pair of shoes than a $500 pair.
Even though they could easily buy out the entire shoe store if they wanted to.
Exactly. Why? Because that remaining $460 isn't just savings, it's undeployed capital.
It's a soldier that can be sent out into the market to capture more wealth.
I love thinking about dollars as little soldiers, and that mindset leads perfectly into one of the most powerful mathematical concepts we have in the sources, the 7% rule.
Ah, this is such a critical metric.
This completely changed how I view income. Let's really break down the mechanics of this because it's brilliant.
So the 7% rule is a core indicator of true wealth. The research shows that true millionaires typically keep their realized, meaning their taxable annual income, under 7% of their total wealth.
Let's pause and look at what that actually means in practice for a second.
Yeah.
If they have $2 million in total wealth, you're saying they're living on less than $140,000 a year in taxable income.
Exactly. They systematically prioritize unrealized income over realized income.
And unrealized income is what exactly?
Unrealized income is the capital appreciation of their investments, the growing equity in their real estate, or the rising valuation of their private businesses.
Things that grow on paper but aren't cash in the bank yet?
Right. And crucially, unrealized income does not trigger a tax event until the asset is actually sold.
Okay.
Most people are playing a completely different game. Most people are trying to maximize their W-2 paycheck.
Which is taxed at the highest possible ordinary income rates.
Yes, the average person wants the biggest salary possible so they can spend it, but they are getting crushed by taxes before the money even hits their checking account.
So the wealthy are actively playing defense against the tax code.
Constantly.
They are trying to minimize their realized income to avoid taxes while letting their underlying assets compound silently in the background.
You can earn $500,000 a year in W-2 income, but if you spend $500,000 a year, your wealth accumulation is literally zero.
You are just a high-volume, highly taxed conduit for money.
Exactly. The millionaire next door might only earn $100,000 a year, but they are saving and investing $30,000 of it year after year in tax-advantaged accounts or appreciating real estate and just letting it compound.
So they live on the margins while the core wealth grows.
That's the secret.
But, that creates a massive, almost tragic paradox in a way.
How so?
Well, if it requires this incredible amount of grit, extreme frugality, emotional stability, and sheer struggle to build this wealth from scratch, what happens when it is time to pass that wealth on to the next generation?
Ah, the generational transfer.
Right, because the kids growing up in that safe, secure millionaire household never faced that friction. They never had to develop that internal locus of control out of necessity.
This brings us to one of the most insidious and fascinating threats to multi-generational wealth discussed in the sources. It is a concept called economic outpatient care, or EOC.
Economic outpatient care, it sounds so clinical.
It is the term used to describe the ongoing financial gifts, subsidies, down payments, and general life support that affluent parents provide to their adult children.
And from the parents' perspective, I'm sure it feels like an act of love.
Of course. You struggle so your kids wouldn't have to. You want to give them a head start.
But the data shows it acts more like a poison, doesn't it?
The psychological and financial damage EOC inflicts is actually profound. The receivers of ERC do not turn into grateful, highly productive members of society who leverage their head start.
What happens to them?
The data shows they very often become severe underachievers and incredibly high-volume consumers.
Let's look at the mechanics of why that happens, because it makes sense psychologically.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are a 30-year-old and you know that anytime you get into credit card debt or you want to buy a house that is slightly out of your budget, your parents are going to stroke a check for $20,000.
Your brain fundamentally rewires its risk assessment.
You no longer have a reason to delay gratification.
Exactly. Because the struggle has been artificially removed, the motivation is neutralized. The research indicates that adult children receiving EOC tend to rely heavily on credit.
Because they subconsciously know a bailout is coming.
Right. They invest significantly less of their own income than their peers who don't receive handouts. But perhaps most dangerously, they begin to view their parents' wealth as their own earned income.
Wow. So they blur the lines between what they have actually produced themselves and what they have passively absorbed from their parents.
Yes. And they use the EOC to artificially inflate their lifestyle. They buy the luxury cars and the big houses to project the status of wealth.
They assume the identity of a millionaire without having built the underlying foundational habits.
And it entirely destroys their internal drive. Usually they end up burning through the capital once the parents are actually gone.
So how does the data say parents actually resolve that?
It's tough.
Because if you are highly successful, it is entirely natural to want to help your kids. But if handing them cash ruins their ambition and turns them into entitled consumers, what is the alternative? How do you set them up for success without completely neutering their drive?
The sources provide a very clear, highly disciplined set of mandates for raising productive children in an affluent household.
Okay, what are the rules?
Well, it requires immense restraint from the parents. The first rule is perhaps the hardest to execute. Never let your children know how wealthy you are until they are mature, established professionals.
Wait, really? So living that frugal millionaire next door lifestyle, driving the used car, staying in the modest house isn't just a strategy for tax minimization.
No, it's not.
It is literally a psychological shield for your children's development.
It is essential. You do not want them making career choices or life choices based on the assumption of an impending bailout or a massive inheritance.
They need to feel the pressure to produce.
Exactly. Another critical mandate is to never use cash as a negotiation tactic with adult children.
Like, I'll pay for your wedding if you invite these people kind of thing.
Right. You cannot buy their affection, and you cannot buy their compliance with your wishes, because it creates a toxic transactional dynamic where love is just equated with capital.
That makes total sense. And when it comes to praise, what's the rule there?
The rule is to strictly celebrate their personal achievements, their hard work, their resilience, their creativity, and never celebrate mere symbols of success.
So you praise the late nights and the effort it took to get the degree, not the brand new car they finance after graduation.
Exactly. You have to reward the behavior that builds wealth, not the consumption of it.
There is a really sobering statistic in the text that perfectly illustrates how hard this generational transfer actually is.
Oh, the business stat.
Yeah. Fewer than 1 in 5 successful self-made business owners successfully pass their business down to their children.
Less than 20%.
Less than 20%. That is incredibly low.
It is, but it makes sense when you think about it, because the conscientiousness, the resilience, the risk tolerance required to build a business from the ground up cannot be genetically inherited.
And it cannot be taught in a seminar.
No. It is forged entirely in the fire of struggle. The self-made millionaire developed their rich personality profile by facing existential business obstacles and overcoming them.
Right.
When you hand a fully functioning business to a child on a silver platter, you are handing them the mechanics of the operation, but you are not handing them the psychological armor required to sustain it when the market turns against them.
The drive to succeed is born of necessity.
Exactly.
Okay, so if true wealth must be actively built from the ground up, and it requires this specific mindset and extreme frugality, we need to transition from the psychology to the actual mechanical roadmap.
Let's get into the mechanics.
If you are starting from absolute zero, day one, what are the actual milestones required to build this foundation?
The financial blueprints are remarkably consistent across the data. If we look at the core milestones for someone in their 20s and 30s, The foundation begins entirely with defense.
Defense first.
Always. The absolute first step is building a 3 to 6 month emergency fund held in a highly liquid, easily accessible account.
Which ties perfectly back to that Open University study we talked about earlier. Viewing money as security leads to wealth. The emergency fund is the physical, mathematical manifestation of that psychological security.
Right. It protects you from having to rely on high-interest credit cards when the transmission blows on your car or you suddenly lose your job.
Okay, so defense is set. What's next?
Right alongside that defensive perimeter is establishing and protecting excellent credit. Your credit score dictates your borrowing costs for decades.
On mortgages, on business loans, on insurance, everything.
Everything. So once the defense is set, you have to go on the offensive against your existing liabilities.
Meaning debt.
Yes. You utilize the avalanche method, attacking the highest interest rate debt first to save the absolute most money mathematically. Or you use the snowball method, paying off the smallest balances first to gain psychological momentum.
Whichever keeps you motivated.
Exactly. But you must eradicate high-interest consumer debt because it mathematically outpaces almost any investment return you could ever achieve in the market.
And concurrently, while playing defense and offense on debt, you must start retirement funds early.
The math of compound interest is unrelenting.
And it heavily favors time over principal.
Oh, massively. Whether it is an employer-sponsored plan to capture the match, which, by the way, is essentially free, untaxed money or an individual account, starting early means your capital has decades to multiply.
But the research also makes it very clear that merely saving from a single static W-2 salary is rarely enough to reach the upper tiers of wealth.
Almost never enough. This is where the absolute necessity of multiple income streams becomes apparent.
You have to safeguard against economic volatility and accelerate the accumulation phase.
Yes, and the sources differentiate strongly between types of income streams. You have passive income, which requires a heavy upfront investment of either capital or time, but then generates revenue with minimal ongoing effort.
Like what?
This is your cash-flowing real estate rentals, your broad index funds that pay quarterly dividends, or royalties from intellectual property.
Got it. And contrasted with that, you have active side hustles.
Right. Consulting, freelancing, running a digital storefront.
It requires ongoing active labor, but it diversifies your cash flow away from the whim of a single corporate employer.
Exactly. But managing multiple streams requires an entirely new level of meticulous record-keeping and strategic tax management.
Oh, for sure. As your income diversifies, your tax liabilities become significantly more complex.
You have to understand legal entity structuring, write-offs, and depreciation to ensure you aren't losing your extra earnings to inefficiency.
But here is where we have to stop and look at the behavioral reality of all this. Because knowing all these mechanical steps, save emergency fund, invest in index funds, diversify income, it's incredibly easy on paper. Like, a teenager could understand the checklist.
Sure.
Actually executing them consistently, month after month, decade after decade, is incredibly hard.
It's the hardest part.
So here's where it gets really interesting. I want to frame the psychological ability to actually execute this roadmap as a patience premium, or conversely, an impatience tax.
I like that framing.
And the National Bureau of Economic Research actually quantified this exact concept in a way that just completely blew my mind.
Oh, the NBER discount rate study. It's a phenomenal piece of behavioral economics.
This is where the $100 question from the intro comes in, right?
Yes. The researchers surveyed older Americans, all over 70 years old, and gave them that hypothetical choice. We can give you $100 right now, or you can wait exactly 1 year, and we will give you a higher amount.
And they asked the participants to state exactly how much that future amount would have to be to convince them to wait the 365 days.
They are basically asking, what is the specific return on investment you personally require to delay your gratification?
Exactly. And the average answer from these 70-plus-year-olds was staggering. On average, they required $154 to wait a year.
That represents a 54% discount rate.
That is insane.
It means they value the present moment so intensely and they discount the value of the future so heavily that they would need a guaranteed 54% return just to defer consuming $100 today.
Let's really analyze that 54% discount rate because that is just nuts. A 54% guaranteed return does not exist anywhere in legal regulated finance.
No, it doesn't.
The best investors in the world aim for like 20%. So basically, by stating they need 54%, they're subconsciously saying, I will never, ever invest my money. The future is worthless to me compared to today. I will just spend whatever I have right now.
That is exactly what it means. And the real-world consequences of this inability to delay gratification are massive.
Because the researchers didn't just ask the hypothetical, right?
Right. They correlated these individual discount rates with the participants' actual real-world net worths over their lifetimes.
And what was the correlation?
They found that individuals who had a discount rate just one standard deviation higher than the average, meaning they were only slightly more impatient than the norm, had a net worth that was 29% lower than their peers.
29%.
Yes.
In real dollars for this specific cohort, that meant they had roughly $130,000 less to their name, simply because they lacked the psychological mechanism for patience.
It's wild. That simple one-question behavioral test about $100 was a stronger predictor of lifetime wealth accumulation than major demographic factors.
That is just incredible. And it bleeds into every single aspect of life, not just capital accumulation, doesn't it?
No, definitely. The study highlighted that this exact same lack of delayed gratification heavily correlated with significantly poorer health outcomes.
Really? Like what?
The highly impatient group had much higher rates of smoking, they drank excessively, and they regularly missed routine medical appointments.
Which makes sense, because going to the doctor today to get blood work is an annoyance. It takes time, it might be uncomfortable.
But it prevents a massive heart attack in 10 years.
Right. But if your brain heavily discounts the value of the future, you won't endure the minor annoyance today. The impatience tax is literally levied on both your bank account and your physical body.
It's a holistic tax, which brings us to the threshold of the ultra-wealthy.
Okay, let's level up.
We have established how the millionaire next door gets there. They do it through extreme patience, conscientiousness, emotional stability, and unyielding frugality.
They save, they invest, they build multiple streams of income, and they simply wait.
Right. But moving from the millionaire next door, say, the $1 to $10 million range up into the true upper echelons of the ultra-wealthy requires an entirely different set of tools.
Because you cannot simply save and budget your way to $50 million on a W-2 salary, no matter how frugal you are.
Exactly. Moving up that ladder requires transitioning from mastering your personal internal habits to mastering external social capital.
This is the shift from defense to high-level offense. And this is where the Harvard economist Raj Chetty comes in.
Yes, his research completely redefined how we look at upward mobility in society.
He analyzed massive, sweeping data sets and revealed that the ultimate predictor of economic mobility isn't your standardized test scores or your local school's funding.
It's not even your parents' exact income level.
Right. The absolute biggest predictor is a metric he calls economic connectedness.
Economic connectedness is fundamentally a measure of friendships across different wealth levels.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, Chetty's research found that children who grew up in areas with high cross-class connections, meaning kids from lower-income families interacting regularly and forming genuine friendships with wealthy kids, saw their adult incomes increase by an average of 20%.
20% just from who they were friends with as kids.
Yes. The exposure to different networks, different behavioral norms, and entirely different opportunity sets fundamentally altered their economic trajectory.
And this concept scales directly up to the adult world of business, investing, and scaling wealth.
Absolutely.
To understand how to leverage this, we have to unpack the sociological difference between two very distinct types of social capital: bonding capital and bridging capital.
This distinction is so crucial for anyone trying to scale their net worth.
Let's define bonding capital first.
Bonding capital strengthens ties within your existing immediate group. It is your family, your close friends from college, your coworkers who are at your exact current level in the corporate hierarchy.
The people you are already comfortable with.
Right. Bonding capital provides immense emotional support, loyalty, and a vital psychological safety net. It is what keeps you grounded. But bonding capital rarely, if ever, introduces novel information or transformative opportunities.
Because everyone in that tight group has access to the exact same resources and the exact same worldview that you do.
Exactly. You are an echo chamber of resources.
Right. If you want to access exclusive deal flow, private investment opportunities, or partnerships that are completely outside your current socioeconomic reality, bonding capital just won't get you there.
No, you need bridging capital.
And bridging capital connects entirely different social circles.
It is the weak tie to a private equity manager or an introduction to a director at a family office. Accessing ultra-wealthy networks strictly requires mastering bridging capital.
But, okay, here is the massive pushback I have.
Yeah.
And I know anyone listening who hates traditional networking is thinking the exact same thing.
Lay it on me.
How do you actually build bridging capital with the ultra-wealthy without coming across as, like, a slimy transactional grifter who's just looking for a handout or a quick investment?
That's a very fair concern.
Because the ultra-wealthy are bombarded with people pitching them constantly. How do you pierce that bubble authentically? Imagine walking into a charity gala in the Hamptons where you know absolutely no one. It is terrifying.
It is intimidating, for sure. But the sources outline a very specific, highly effective strategy for this, utilized heavily in geographic wealth concentrations.
Like the Hamptons.
Exactly. If you look at the Hamptons in New York during the summer, it sees a 2,700% increase in ultra-wealthy residents.
That's crazy.
It becomes a concentrated, high-pressure laboratory for social capital. And the successful strategy employed by individuals looking to build bridging capital, there isn't aggressive cold pitching or handing out business cards.
Okay, so what is it?
It is a concept called passive presence.
Passive presence. Let's dig into the psychology of that.
Passive presence means consistently and authentically placing yourself in the exclusive venues where these networks naturally congregate without an immediate agenda.
Just being there.
Exactly. It is attending the charity galas, joining the specific tennis clubs, being present at the invite-only dinners. It is about repeated low-pressure interactions.
Because the geography forces repeated exposure, familiarity breeds organically over time.
Right. You become a recognizable face, then a casual acquaintance, then a trusted contact. In these highly guarded circles, familiarity is the absolute prerequisite for trust.
You have to be seen as part of the ecosystem before you can ever do business within it.
Precisely. And the ultimate gatekeepers of this ultra-wealthy ecosystem are family offices. We really have to talk about them because they are the new titans of global capital.
Yeah, understanding how they operate is crucial.
Absolutely. Family offices are private wealth management advisory firms that serve ultra-high net worth investors. They have evolved from simply being passive wealth managers who buy index funds into highly active, aggressive investment vehicles.
And how much money are we talking about here?
Globally, family offices now control over $14 trillion in capital.
14 trillion.
To put that in perspective, they are bigger than the entire private equity industry. And the data shows that 80% of ultra-high net worth individuals, and by extension the family offices that represent them, heavily prefer to be introduced to new investments, founders, or partners exclusively through mutual contacts.
Which means your cold emails, your clever LinkedIn pitches, and your blind phone calls will almost always fail at this level.
Almost 100% failure rate.
You cannot hack the system with a good marketing funnel. You need the bridging capital to get the warm introduction.
And generating that warm introduction from a gatekeeper relies entirely on the reciprocity principle.
Okay, explain the reciprocity principle.
Well, transactional networking, where you only reach out to someone when you need capital or a job, makes people feel used.
Right, nobody likes that.
And the wealthy have highly attuned radar for transactional behavior. The reciprocity principle dictates that you must make continuous, unsolicited deposits of value into the relationship before you ever dare ask for a withdrawal.
But what does a deposit actually look like to someone who already has $100 million? I mean, you can't buy them dinner to impress them.
Right. The stakes are different. A deposit of value looks like sharing exclusive deal flow that fits their specific investment mandate, even if you aren't involved in the deal yourself.
Oh, just passing along good info.
Yes. It looks like introducing them to a complementary contact they wouldn't have found otherwise. Or, very often, it looks like authentic alignment on philanthropy.
Philanthropy. The sources mention that, right?
Yes. Research shows that 59% of high net worth philanthropic engagement directly leads to additional business alliances within 2 years.
Why is philanthropy such a powerful bridge, though?
Because working together on a charitable board completely removes the commercial pressure. It reveals your core character.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. When you are organizing a gala or directing funds for a nonprofit, the wealthy individuals on that board get to see your competence, your reliability, and how you handle disagreements in a low-stakes environment.
You build genuine trust there.
Exactly. And once the trust is established, the lucrative deal flow naturally follows.
So you utilize bridging capital, you master passive presence, you continuously make deposits of value based on reciprocity, and eventually you break through.
I scale up.
You amass significant wealth of your own. You transition from the millionaire next door to the ultra-wealthy whale.
The whale, yes.
And once you cross that threshold, your relationship with the entire financial world changes completely. Let's look at how the institutions actually view and categorize you once you reach the top.
To do this, we turn to the hard empirical data from McKinsey. They provide a look at the wealth management industry from the inside out, looking at how advisors categorize clients.
Okay.
They provide a very strict institutional definition of what the industry considers high net worth. In the wealth management space, high net worth strictly means having $2 million or more in investable assets held with an advisor.
That is a really crucial distinction. That does not include the equity in your primary residence, and it doesn't include the illiquid valuation of a private business you own.
No, it is $2 million in liquid deployable market capital.
That puts you in the 95th percentile of all households, especially when you remember the median household only has about $210,000 in investable assets.
Exactly. And when you cross that $2 million liquid threshold, how your money is managed shifts dramatically.
I think the best way to visualize the shift from an average retail investor to a high net worth client is comparing it to buying a suit.
Oh, the suit analogy is perfect.
Right, like when you have $200,000 to invest, you go to a financial advisor and you get an off-the-rack suit.
They put you in a pre-built model portfolio, usually a basket of mutual funds.
It's a one-size-fits-all solution that is easy for them to manage.
Yeah.
But when you become a high net worth client, that portfolio becomes a bespoke, custom-tailored suit designed exactly for your tax situation.
The McKinsey data maps perfectly to that analogy. As households cross that $2 million threshold, their asset mix completely changes.
That changes.
They drop mutual funds significantly down to making up only 17% of their total portfolio. Instead, they shift heavily in favor of discrete equities, meaning owning individual stocks directly, which jumps to 44%.
And fixed income.
And tailored fixed income vehicles, which sit at around 28%.
Let's explain why they drop mutual funds. Because it's not just about picking better stocks. It's about the mechanics of taxes.
Taxes are everything at this level.
Mutual funds are highly tax inefficient for the ultra-wealthy. If you own a mutual fund and the fund manager decides to sell a stock within that fund for a massive profit, the capital gains tax burden is passed directly to you, the investor, at the end of the year.
You have to pay the tax on that gain even if you didn't sell a single share of the mutual fund yourself.
Exactly. You have zero control over the tax event.
Precisely. By moving away from prepackaged mutual funds and directly owning the discrete individual equities, the high net worth individual, the whale, dictates exactly when a tax event occurs.
So they can utilize strategies like tax loss harvesting.
Yes, selling a losing stock to offset the gains of a winning stock, completely neutralizing the tax burden. It is about ultimate control.
And the complexity of how they pay for this advice changes too. The data shows that 43% of high net worth clients are what McKinsey calls hybrid households.
A hybrid household maintains a carefully balanced mix of both fee-based accounts and transactional accounts.
Okay, what's the difference?
In a fee-based account, the advisor charges a flat percentage of assets under management, say 1%, for ongoing holistic strategy and planning.
Okay.
But the whale also utilizes transactional accounts, where they simply pay a flat commission per trade for specific, discrete execution of a strategy.
So lower-tier retail investors usually just have one or the other, but the whale requires a complex infrastructure that utilizes both pricing models simultaneously.
Exactly, depending on the specific asset strategy they are deploying.
Which leads us to what I found to be the most surprising piece of data in the entire McKinsey report: the pricing paradox.
Oh, this is fascinating for anyone in sales or consulting.
If you are a financial advisor and you are trying to land a massive whale, say, a client walking in with $5 million in liquid capital, the logical assumption is that you need to offer them a massive discount on your fees to win their business.
They have all the leverage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you think, I'll drop my price from 1% down to 0.4% just to undercut the competition and secure the account.
It seems logical, but the data reveals that heavy discounting is a deeply flawed strategy.
Why?
Well, there is massive variance in how high net worth clients are actually priced. While the median fee charged to a 2 million plus household is 0.76% of assets under management, a staggering 29% of high net worth clients willingly pay 1% or more.
Wait, nearly a third of the wealthiest, most powerful clients in the system are willingly paying top dollar. Why wouldn't they use their immense leverage to negotiate that fee down?
Because at that elite level of wealth, Clients realize they are no longer buying a commodity, they are buying bespoke expertise. They are paying for comprehensive tax management, intricate estate planning, legal structuring, and flawless execution. When an advisor severely discounts their fee to win the business, they accidentally trigger a psychological red flag.
They erode the client's perception of value.
Exactly. The data clearly shows that advisors who price themselves confidently in the optimal premium range between 0.5% and 0.99% optimize both the number of whales they attract and the total revenue they generate.
And the discounters.
Advisors who heavily discount below 0.5% actually fail to attract more high net worth clients. They just make less money on the ones they do have because the extreme discount signals a lack of premium capability.
It is literally the luxury goods paradox applied directly to financial advice.
Yeah.
A Rolex watch never goes on sale because the premium price is inherently part of the value proposition.
It signals exclusivity and quality.
And the McKinsey data shares one final, incredibly harsh truth for financial advisors that I think listeners can apply to their own networking, consulting, or business development strategies.
The farming versus hunting data.
Yes, advisors often take on small accounts, people with $50,000, thinking, I'll groom them, I'll provide incredible service, and over 10 years, their wealth will grow, and they will turn into a $5 million account.
And the data obliterates that strategy completely. It shows that 75% of current high net worth clients already had over $2 million when they first started working with their current advisor.
And another 18% started with between $1 and $2 million.
Small households almost never organically grow into massive wealth accounts for an advisor.
The lesson for the wealth management industry, and really for anyone trying to build a high-level service business, is that you cannot farm a whale. You have to hunt them.
You have to build a skill set and a value proposition that is immediately attractive to someone who is already highly successful,
rather than hoping a small seed magically turns into a redwood overnight. So we have covered an immense amount of ground today, from the deepest psychological profiles of the individual to the macro data of global wealth management. If we pull all these threads together. So what does this all mean?
The overarching synthesis is that building and scaling true wealth is not a singular event. It's not a lucky break, and it's certainly not just a high W-2 salary.
It is a meticulously constructed, multi-layered ecosystem.
Yes. It begins internally, requiring a highly conscientious, emotionally stable, and resilient mindset that possesses an internal locus of control.
And it relies heavily on extreme frugality, a defensive posture against lifestyle creep, and an ironclad commitment to delayed gratification.
And then it scales by transitioning from individual effort to leveraging social capital, mastering bridging capital to access novel networks and high-yield opportunities.
And it culminates in requiring bespoke, highly structured financial management that prioritizes tax efficiency and unrealized gains over flashy, depreciating consumption.
It is a fundamental shift from the illusion of wealth to the mechanics of wealth.
The illusion is the least exotic car, the stressed jumbo mortgage, and the zero-balance checking account.
While the mechanic is the unglamorous index fund, the quiet strategic networking at the charity board, and the unyielding internal belief that says, I am entirely responsible for my outcomes.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to ponder.
Leave them with something good.
We've established, through Raj Chetty's research in the mechanics of family offices, that economic connectedness and the mastery of bridging capital are the absolute biggest external predictors of explosive wealth generation.
Biggest.
So I challenge you to take a hard, honest look at your calendar, your call log, and your text messages from the last 30 days. Analyze your interactions.
This is a great exercise.
Are you spending 100% of your time and energy building bonding capital with people who are in the exact same socioeconomic position as you, facing the exact same limitations, and echoing the exact same worldview? Or are you actively, intentionally placing yourself in uncomfortable, novel environments to forge the bridging capital that will ultimately redefine your trajectory?
That is the question that separates the comfortable from the truly wealthy. You have to build the bridge before you can cross it.
You really do. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you take these insights from the rigorous psychology of the millionaire next door to the bespoke mechanics of the family office and begin actively applying them to your own financial planning and your own social strategies. Until next time, keep digging deep.